There's a massive change coming down the pike for any small businesses, so stay tuned because your very freedom may actually depend on it. In 2021, Congress passed what was called the Corporate Transparency Act. And what this act requires is that any non-exempt business must submit to a new law enforcement agency a complete list of any beneficial owner of that business. And what they define a beneficial owner is anybody that operates the business or who owns more than 25% of that business. There are numerous exceptions to this, but practically speaking, those exemptions are not going to apply to most small businesses. If you satisfy all three requirements, that you have more than $5 million in gross revenues, that you have more than 20 employees registered in the United States, and that you have otherwise filed all necessary applications and registrations with other agencies. If you meet those three qualifications, then you are exempt. There's also carve-outs for insurance companies, nonprofits, a few other things that are not necessarily going to apply, but for a overwhelming majority of small businesses, you are going to have to comply with the Corporate Transparency Act. It comes into effect on January 1st of 2024. And so this means that if you are currently operating an LLC or a corporation inside the United States, you have less than $5 million or less than 20 employees, then you need to file this application with this new financial law enforcement agency. And it's very important that you do this, because if you don't, the penalties are for failure to file $500 a day, up to a $10,000 penalty, or up to 2 years in jail. They are not screwing around here. A lot of people don't know about this act. It got passed back in 21. It was part of a larger terrorism act, and so a lot of people aren't familiar with it. The filings will be considered past due starting January 1st of 2025. So that means that if you have not filed this, then you need to do that by the end of 2024, or else you could be facing serious penalties and possible imprisonment. The other thing that's important is that this is not just a one-time filing, but you will also have to file anytime that there is a change of a beneficial owner's address, any change in their identifying documents, because you also have to submit driver's licenses, you will also have to submit passports or any other identifying information. If that information changes, say for instance somebody gets a new driver's license and gets a new driver's license number, then that will need to be updated. The point is that this is a massive bill. They are anticipating that there will be over 300 million applications. The first year compliance costs for this act in and of itself, $22 billion with a B dollars. And so this is a massive act that really nobody knows about. I've even spoken to a lot of other legal practitioners. They're not familiar with this act. They think that it doesn't apply to them and it doesn't apply to their businesses, but it absolutely does. The presumption is that it does apply for your business. In all likelihood, your business is not exempt if you are not $5 million in revenue, 20 employees, and otherwise have filed all the other necessary filings. The other reason that this creates a massive problem is because it's not uncommon for businesses to not maintain corporate compliance. It's easy to forget about filing an annual filing or paying the business privilege tax in different states. The worst that would happen in those situations is that the company gets administratively dissolved, and there's a possibility, not necessarily the guarantee, but the possibility that you would lose liability protections if the corporation or the LLC was administratively dissolved. That was your worst case scenario. The worst case scenario now is a felony. You will become a felon if you do not file this. I cannot emphasize how important it is to comply with this act starting next year. Again, A lot of people don't know about this. Even other legal practitioners don't know about this. And my clients are certainly finding out about it for the first time when they hear it from me, because this Compliance Act is big. It should take priority over everything else that you do. As far as a legal implication, it's arguably more important than filing your taxes. Critically important that you take the steps necessary in order to comply with this act. The big dates to think about here. Final rules came out in September of 22. Starts January 1st of 2024. January 1st of 2025 is when these things have to be filed. If you have not filed for your disclosures by 2025, and it doesn't matter if you set up your LLC 30 years ago, if you have not filed disclosures for your LLC and you do not meet the exemptions, those 24 exemptions, then you could be charged with a felony. Now, for the lawyers that watch me, this is important also because whoever files corporations or LLCs will now need to submit their own disclosures as a company rep. If you are an attorney filing for LLCs or corporations, this is a requirement. If you as the attorney fail to do it, you could be charged with a felony or with financial penalties. It is critically important that everybody comply with this act because the penalties are massive. It's very important that everybody comply with this act. We now have for the rest of the year to raise awareness, to get knowledge about this act and getting compliance with this act. The form itself is fairly simple. You need to disclose somebody's name, their address, a ID document numbers, whether that's a passport number or a driver's license number. And then you have to submit an actual image of the driver's license or the passport. But if that disclosure is not made and if it's not updated, if that information changes, then the penalties are severe. So please make a point. Become knowledgeable about this act and making sure that you're in compliance. Assume that it is going to apply to you. Assume it is going to apply to your business. And only if you find out that you're subject to an exemption should you worry about not complying. When in doubt, just assume that it's going to apply to you. We're going to be bringing out more content and information about the CTA as we learn more. Again, this is an act that is going into effect. We don't know how it's going to be enforced. We don't know with what level of enforcement it's going to have. The rules are final as of September 22, but this is a significant change from where we are currently operating inside the United States, especially in Alabama. It's literally going to double the amount of steps necessary in order to start an LLC. It's going to be twice as much work. A lot of stuff going on. We're still learning about it, still doing our research. We don't know how it's going to be enforced at the end of the day, but I want to make a point of raising awareness for this act because it is here, it is law, it is coming into effect at the end of the year, and I certainly don't want anybody to be caught off guard and have federal agents show up at their place of business asking why they haven't completed these disclosures. If you need help with compliance with the CTA, give us a call. The Watson firm, we're happy to help you out and advise on whether or not it applies to you and if you meet one of the exemptions. Thank you for your time today, and we will get you some more information as it is made available to us. Thanks.